warming up, and that usually is an indication of El Nino developing. This is a chart that shows those water temperatures, those basically those you can read it. We're moving from cooler temperatures to warmer temperatures. So this again is showing us moving from a La Nina to an El Nino. And this is their kind of wild projection for the September through November temperature and precipitation. You can see that the red on the temperature means that it's above average. The white means that it's neutral or no increase. The blue that you can see just a little bit along the coast is below normal. So it looks like we'll have a fairly, at least for the Antelope Valley, have a fairly normal temperature. And you can see on the right-hand side shows precipitation a little bit above normal in Arizona, but for us it looks pretty average. Yeah, they do a lot of studies. This is El Nino. Who knows what that means, but oftentimes it brings us more. Flow to the water bank, we've got 44 MGD going right now, so we're still aggressively recharging water. Fort Sill is at 46 MGD, Rosamond at 12, East Side at 4, and Acton we are actually connecting with PWD and operating that connection now, doing 1.5 MGD. So I don't know if there's anything operationally, John, you want to mention? Anything else going on?
A couple more weeks, and we'll probably start getting down into our lower flow time, so start getting our winter maintenance started.
Moving on to state water project rates. In the coming months, they're going to be talking about contract extension, and I've kind of mentioned this to the board a couple of times. I just wanted to remind you of some of these bullet points. The existing contract goes to 2035, and the last major modification was in 1995, which was the Monterey Amendment. That's where they added 56 pages to our contract and started 9 new programs. And there were a lot of things that affected AVAC as far as costs and operations and so forth. One of the reasons they're doing this contract extension, you might say, well, we've got until 2035, but we need to do this now. What happens is the financing for projects gets compressed. So you only can finance for the remainder of the contract because you have to have a funding stream. So with that compression, you really can't finance a delta fix. So contractors are motivated to extend the contract to, one, deal with just the present financing, but also how to finance this fix. So obviously AVAC is very engaged in that because we're not sure we're in on that fix yet or not. So there's a lot of money at stake in these extensions, and Mike and I are actively engaged. Mike Friedel and I are actively engaged in that. Right now, one of the things that I would like to see is more flexibility on transfers between contractors. The existing contract says you really can't, without a lot of hoops to jump through, you can't transfer between contractors, and that's something we're looking at as far as short-term and long-term of the contract. And again, the financial impact to AVAC for this contract extension could be pretty extensive.
When would that take, if it did?
It depends when they decide or when everybody signs up. Right now, there are a lot of costs that are spread over the entire life of the project. And the kind of the sentiment between most contractors is we don't want to change that, because if you had to compress all that, pay all those things off, it would have a huge impact on us. But what are you going to do for the new projects? If you're going to build a new facility, let's say the Delta Fix, or even an extension of the canal or something like that, you have to finance that. They would stack that on top of the existing bills. So how they allocate costs on that is going to, it may or may not affect us. Well, it's going to affect us one way or the other. It's one of those things we have to kind of stay engaged in. So right now the contract goes to 2035. It's almost like our mortgage gets paid off in 2035. And what this would do is add a second on there, a big giant second that would then go for the next 50 years or whatever they extend the contract.
150 years.
Yeah. And, you know, the longer the better for some folks, because then you have lower payments. So that's straightforward. Let's address these financial issues. Let's have an extension that we don't have to do a whole lot of stuff on, because that could just drag this on for another 7 years or whatever. Some are saying, well, if we keep this very confined and very tight, we can get this done in a year or so. So,
one of the concerns I have, Dan, is that the financial mechanism they're going to use to receive the bonds or the money is how it's handled, because that's where a lot of corruption is done in financing, by family members being tied to the mortgage companies, the points we're going to pay, all these little things they can tack in there, and somebody needs to be on top of that, because you could be paying an extra 10% more, and I want to know how they're going to, how are they going out to bid on the actual cost of the loans? You know, that needs to be brought up in the meetings, because nothing can get out of hand.
yeah, this is serious money. You know, if you think about it, the existing, right now the contract is $1 billion a year. So,
This is more like, it's not, what you're talking about, Dan, it's not an extension, it's an amendment. Extension is just extending the same terms.
It's basically, you're
That's-
paying somebody off, that's what's happening.
Yeah, an amendment's
Yeah.
changing in the terms.
in a practical sense, it really is. If you said, let's just all I want to do is change 2035 to 2075,
Yeah, exactly.
that'd be one thing.
Yeah.
But there's so many other things that are
Yeah,
in.
exactly.
So it is really, I don't know, Mike.
I mean, the
maybe you
state
have
water
a comment.
contractors and the taxpayers own that project, not the government. And if they're trying to tie things into that, because you could go out and refinance that today. We just had a report yesterday in our finance meeting. You can go out 30 years today and get 4% interest rate all day long. It might even be less because of the dollar amount. It could even be a lower percent. So we got to keep our eyes on something like that. I just can't, you know.
Yeah, it's good, no, that's, you brought up a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of contractors
Yeah, I wouldn't have
are
been followed.
ramping up this.